Man, it was a long week, wasn't it? I really feel like it's been 2-3 weeks since I was last here at church. This past weekend. Oh, by the way, it was my birthday. It was the 26th anniversary of my 26th birthday. So, you figured that one out. 82. I love this passage. I think all of us have been there with Thomas. I think Thomas gets a bad rap. You know, why do we always refer to him as Doubting Thomas? You know, we throw that expression around too. You know, as an insult. Oh, you Doubting Thomas. When I was young, we used to play the license plate game. You know, we traveled a lot. My dad was in the Navy, and we stationed down in Florida, and our hometown was up in Ohio, and so we would travel. And on the road, we'd play the license plate game. You all played the license plate game. You see a state, and you call it out. Well, we played it a little bit different. When someone saw a license plate and they called it out, the rest of the people had to figure out what the motto was. And my favorite was Missouri. The Show Me State. And I always think of Missouri license plates and St. Thomas with those, because both of them are show me. This brings me to an important question. Is it wrong to doubt? Is it wrong to question what we believe? A very famous person of faith would write letters to God. It was her way of praying. Years after her death, some of these letters were leaked out to the people and actually made into a book. Someone with such faith to show arduous work that she did for God, how could she struggle, as you can see from her writings? Agnes Ganja Bouaget was 18 years old when she entered the community of Sisters of Loreto. After 20 years of a happy religious life, she had a series of mystical experiences in which Jesus spoke to her and told her to found a new order that would serve the poorest of the poor in India. After years of serving the sick and the lowliest in the country, she had doubts. In one of her letters she writes, "Where is my faith? Even deep down, right in, there is nothing but emptiness and darkness. My God, how painful is this unknown pain? It pains without ceasing. I have no faith. I dare not utter the words and thoughts that crowd my heart and make me suffer untold agony. So many unanswered questions live within me. I am afraid to uncover them because of the blasphemy. If there is a God, please forgive me." We know her better as Mother Teresa. Her doubts, her questioning of her faith, still didn't allow her to stray from the task that she was called to do. I tell you that this is because she had hope. It is hope that keeps us going when our faith is weak. In the book, The Alchemist, we were reading this in book club. Yes, this is a shameless self-promotion of the book club, which meets on Wednesday at 6:30, if anybody's interested. Anyway, in The Alchemist, it talks about faith being following what you can't see, but know it is the truth based on what you are hoping for. Faith is following what you can't see, but know to be true based on what you are hoping for. Thomas questioned the risen Christ. Did he truly rise? His hope kept him near with the other disciples until Jesus could strengthen his faith. Mother Teresa's hope drove her to continue her mission, while her doubts caused her much agonizing. Father Martin, a Benedictine priest, said, having ministered to the sick and dying of Calcutta during her lifetime, she will now minister to the doubtful and doubting of a sort of saint for the skeptics. Wow. I think we now have two saints called to be an example for us, to help us when we are in doubt. Thomas and Mother Teresa. Here's the thing. Jesus' death was a public spectacle. The historian Josephus, a Jewish historian writing about the occupation of Jerusalem, mentioned Jesus in his writings concerning the history of the Jews. He said Jesus was crucified, and many people followed him as if he was a god. Jesus' crucifixion was well known and seen by many. Last week we celebrated Jesus' resurrection. It was seen by few. A few women at the temple, at the tomb, a few disciples, and then later by the chosen disciples who would see him until that day he ascended back to heaven. The fact that Jesus' resurrection was not public like his crucifixion and death plants a seed of doubt in many people. This has been a very busy week for me. I have read so much theology that I was afraid I was going to break off and start citing some of that instead of this. But I'm sticking to the script, so. But this week, many of my classmates in seminary have posted on Facebook and have emailed other people and had conversations about an article written in a Christian news website, which the headline reads, Seminary President admits she doesn't believe in heaven, miracles, or Christ's resurrection. The president of seminary, founded in 1836 on the infallible Word of God, says in a new interview she doesn't believe in the bodily resurrection of Christ, also a literal heaven or miracles. Wow. The president of Union Theological Seminary in New York made the comments in an interview with the New York Times for an article published last weekend. To me, the most interesting thing that I could find in the article is the criticism that came from the Orthodox Christianity, suggesting that if she was to question their ideas concerning what took place at the resurrection, she was not a Christian at all, and was in fact worshiping another God, little g. It is people like this that I would suggest have a very shallow faith, and who fail to produce fruitful Christians. Christians whose faith is filled with struggle over questions or doubts that are beyond their understanding. This is why we say God is still speaking. When we ask questions of our faith and we struggle with it, we grow in faith. I have a little story, a little illustration. Bear with me. Have I got to my 3 jokes yet? Okay. An illustration on how a recipe grows. This is a story about my world-famous Mexican chili. I tell you, I am world famous. They like my chili in Germany. They like it up in Ohio. They love it over in Kansas now because my daughter makes it over there.
What about Mexico?
Mexico? Yeah, I haven't made it. Once Cinco de Mayo, you'll see. Mexico. But growing up, my mother taught me to cook. I would be in the kitchen with her, and as she cooked, I would ask questions and watch her cook, and I'd learn how to cook all the things that she cooked, at least the ones that I liked. I was growing up, and in that, she was teaching me something. One thing that I refuse to learn how to make, if you want that, you have to go to my wife. Liver and onions.
Good choice. Cut it out.
My father loves liver and onions. And my wife is so gracious, she invites him over for dinner for liver and onions. Not for me. But anyway. One of the things that she loved to make, and I loved it at the time, was her chili. And her chili was a simple recipe. You brown some hamburger meat, you fry it up in a pan, you throw a little bit of onions in it, and while it's browning, you take some tomato juice and 2 cans of red beans, you put it in a pot, put some chili powder on it, turn that on. When the meat gets done browning, you take the meat and you put it in with the soup. Her chili. If you got a little bubbling of the acid on the tomato, you can pour a little sugar. Okay. After I moved out of the house, I discovered a lot of other foods. Foods that I realized that my father and my mother did not even want to try. I discovered Mexican food. We never had Mexican. We never even had tacos, bro. But I discovered that you could put other things, different kinds of beans in your chili. There was black beans and the white beans, what are they called? Cannelloni? And then I discovered the Bush's chili beans. Hey, those are perfect for chili. I discovered Rotel.
Go ahead.
Rotel, the diced onion, or the diced tomatoes. Oh, yes. And I discovered jalapenos.
Amen. Amen.
So as I started questioning my mother's recipe and finding these foods to taste good, I started putting them in, and my chili grew. My mother's recipe had become my recipe. Today, I can go to my sister's house when she makes chili, and I can have my mom's old recipe because she's never changed it. Funny thing is, I find that kind of bland, and I don't like it today. But you know, I still haven't stopped changing my recipe. Recently, I was trying to bake some cornbread on top of the chili, so it made it kind of cornbread chili. You know,
Time for lunch yet?
yeah. Everybody hungry?
A little bit.
See, you never know what you can come up with want to ask questions. The point is this. I took something that was given to me. I questioned it. I wrestled with it. And I came up with something that I can call mine. Faith is like this. You take something that you're given. You wrestle with it until you find what you believe. You find your faith. But you don't stop there. You grow. You move on to harder questions. You wrestle. And your faith grows even more. You have a deeper faith. You have a faith that is yours. Jesus said, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have come to believe."